Let's see if this is on. Excellent. Okay. Hey YouTube. This is Chaos Kitty, or the Chaos Kitty, depending upon if the username's taken somewhere. And I've kind of got a lot to just talk about, so I guess that's why I put this under blog. Obviously, plans for the future, what I'm hoping to do, planning to do. Some of that involves comics, and I suppose the biggest reason I am currently doing this is because one of my favorite comics from ever since I was little is, I guess, finally over. I'm not sure you can say finally when you're actually going to miss it. Well, the plans are, and they've always been kind of grand, I suppose, in that I've got a lot of stuff I want to do on here. Since I am old enough to drink, I thought it would be fun to have kind of a drink and draw thing, or maybe reviews while I'm having a measure of alcohol that is equivalent to how good or bad whatever I'm reviewing is. That will probably be limited to, say, movies. I know I suck my teeth a lot. Like, I have a very, very cheap bottle of wine sitting on my desk that is just waiting for me to sit through Justice League. Let's see, other plans were to maybe, because I've been watching a few people, mostly diversity in comics, doing comic reviews, and I used to like comics when I was little, so, well, I mean, I still like comics. I'm just not as heavy into them, you know. I can't even really say that, because whenever I see a large comic book shop, I do have to go into it. Actually, funny enough, something I noted to my brother the other day while we were playing Pokemon Go was that at one place where there are two stops, one of them is a comic book shop. And there are more DC, what is it? Shoot, I can't remember. It's the Countdown to Doomsday? I can't remember offhand. It's been a while, you know, unfortunately. Little thing about the artist, I have ADHD pretty bad, so my memory is beyond crap. My note-taking skills suck too, so as you can see, I've got these little notes up here at the corner of my picture, so I actually remember to cover everything I wanted to cover. Yeah, I wanted to maybe start getting into reviewing comics, maybe start reading comics again in general. I have picked up, is it Gambit and Rogue or Rogue and Gambit? I think it's Rogue and Gambit. Either way, excellent title, and it's probably the first and only actual Marvel book I've picked up in so long. Little background with that is, when I was, you know, an angsty, emotional, oh my god, the world is against me teenager, yeah, Marvel was kind of my go-to, because that's kind of how every teenager feels, right? And unfortunately, over the years, I kind of fell out of comics. And several years ago, I also do roleplay online. Yes, I'm a huge geek, nerd, take your pick. I kind of fall under both in various ways. I really need to pick different. Let's just use a very light, large pencil for this. Okay. Yeah, that works better for what I'm doing. Anyway. I roleplay online, and some of that became comic book roleplay. And what I mean by comic book roleplay is I quite literally make or pick characters to play in a chat room, and I did it in a chat room where it's a format where you can use HTML to make codes so that, your presentation can be pretty. But there was a fair bit of drama. Darn it. Fair bit of drama with one of the rooms that I participated in. So I kind of left it, and then I ended up coming back. And the second time it wasn't so great either. But the second time, I believe it was, there was a new player who had run his own roleplay rooms that were comic book related, and I was kind of known in the room for talking about DC comics because as the years passed after I fell out of reading Marvel comics, I started getting into DC comic characters. And I kind of wished at that point that there was a comic book roleplay room for DC Comics. So he PMs me, private messages, in the room, asking me if I was serious about that, if I actually would roleplay and participate in a DC room. And, well, yeah, of course I would, because as most chicks are, I guess, I'm more than a little bit of a fan of Harley Quinn, and, well, a lot of chicks are, rather, I guess. And, of course, I would have leapt on the chance to be able to play her. So we talked about it, and a little while later, he and his wife started up a chat room called DC Noir, and they made me a moderator for it, which was really cool. I believe the first characters I picked up were Harley Quinn and Huntress. Huntress because I had actually gotten into her from the cartoon Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Actually, Justice League Unlimited because she wasn't in Justice League. But then I actually read up on her, and I kind of liked her, much slightly more hardcore than Batman attitude. Her willingness to kill, thanks to her crime family upbringing, which I thought was pretty cool. That said, given her crime family upbringing and the mob and everything, that is probably one big change that I could not really agree with DC on. It's like, if you come from an old Italian mob family, you're probably not going to be a very treasured daughter if you're mixed with something else, especially a minority. So, but I mean, whatever. Anyway, so the room opened and it became popular, you know, to some degree. And not that we were really hugely aiming to be primarily popular, but we definitely had, you know, to some degree less drama than the other rooms. Yay, I'm back! Yes, I am. Hi! Let's see. It helps if I'm on the right keyboard. There we go. Let's see, talked about, where was I going with that train of thought? Oh, right. So, I've been watching comic book people and thinking, I could do this, why not? Because, you know, I roleplay the characters, I read about the characters, why not give my opinions about the characters and their current portrayals? I will currently say that as far as DC goes, I am very glad that they are out of the New 52, because I really did not like it. I will leave my commentary on that at that. But comic book reviews is something I'm thinking about doing in the future. I'm definitely planning on finishing my animatics. I really need to do that. Unfortunately, I am also in college, which takes up a lot of my time, even though I'm so behind on it. After I finish Dead Girl Walking, what I'm planning on doing is hopefully being a little more regular with animatic work and doing more Heathers and hopefully starting on some Hamilton and maybe some other musicals. Not the whole things, obviously. But the only ones I really plan immediately on doing all of is Heathers, which will probably get done sooner than Hamilton, but also Hamilton, because I have the entire soundtrack in my car, and my brother and I listen to it, sing it regularly when I'm taking him to from work and to lunch. Let's see. I'm always open for suggestions on good ones or good songs to cover, because I'm definitely a musical person. I've always been a musical person. Before Hamilton, before Heathers, before Wicked, I liked Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis. I even like the old, 1950s, 60s movie musicals. The King and I, Sound of Music, West Side Story, even kind of lesser known ones like, and I know this one's kind of panned, but it's called Jupiter's Darling. Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, really anything with Howard Keel. Oh my god, that man has a voice of an angel. I could listen to him singing Bless Your Beautiful Hide any day of the week on repeat. let's see, and because I've lost track of what all I was, let's see, plans, animatics, drawing, critiques. Oh yeah, along with the critiques, criticisms, along with reviews, criticisms of movies, or even TV show episodes, even though I will say that I tend to only watch comic book related TV lately. So I'm a little behind on those. I tend to stay a little behind on those because I watch them with my brother. It's kind of just one of our things. That is way too light. There we go, that's better. And so because we watch it together, and we only watch one show between the time I pick him up, and the time I drop him off at home after work, in between playing Pokemon Go on the way back to his place. So I don't get to see, I don't watch Lucifer, that night. I don't watch The Flash or Legends of Tomorrow that night, but I do watch them usually within the week. Because I don't want to spoil myself for when I watch them with my brother. And likewise, he doesn't do it. He does the same thing, because, he could watch them on TV because, he's off at 5 most days, but he doesn't, It's just kind of one of our things. Kind of like calling each other up at midnight on our birthdays and saying happy birthday, just so that we're the first ones to do it. Let's see. But well, I've been doing it for a very long time. I have been drawing pretty much since I was 3, and I guess you could say I took it seriously since I was 3, and not that I encourage this in other people, but when I was, I think, around 10, one of my friends who lived up the street from me lent me a tape of, I guess, I can't remember if it was her mother's or her father's porn, and I actually watched it just with a very, almost medical eye. I looked at the body parts, how they moved, where else are you gonna get really naked people other than, artistic, exactly, artistic, photography, statues, or porn. And porn, you actually get to see people in motion and doing stuff. So I think that actually definitely helped as far as anatomy goes, because you get a good idea of how muscles move, especially when the oops, for that, especially when the actors are very nicely shaped, very built, the guys, and you can see the actual muscles. And that's another good thing about porn, is that the actors tend to be kind of, they're not models always, but they are usually slender enough that you can get a good idea of everything. That led to some very interesting stick figures in some of my children's books. Yeah. Suffice to say, we had to get rid of a few of them after I grew up. But yeah, just regular practice, working, you know, the best drawing advice I probably ever received was from my mother, and actually, I'm pretty sure she told it to me when I was 3, which was draw what you see. And that started quite literally, you know, for me. It was draw what I see, like on TV, out in nature. I got drawing books, like there. I went through this whole stint where all I wanted to do was draw horses, unicorns, Pegasus, alicorns, things like that. And I actually got a book that broke down like the muscles, but also had like how you could simplify the horse into shapes, like the two larger circles for the body, like the chest and the rump, with curved lines between, and a smaller circle for the head, and a box for the muzzle, um, lines leading from the first circle up to the smaller circle. You know, basic, you know, what's considered basic art things. Um, uh, but yeah, practice, 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 practice. Can't say practice enough, and just do it over again. Um, no, I don't think anybody did. My brother might have. I'd have to ask him. His memory as far as that stuff goes is a little better than mine. I know, I once actually, when my video store started getting anime in, um, I saw this anime called Guy Awakening of the Devil on on video, and for what? Um, I, but it had on the cover just this guy who was like completely clothed, and the girl character was just wearing a jacket while holding a gun. She had her like leg lifted up so that she, you know, was covering everything vital, and the jacket was covering her boobs. Um, but it said definitely not. Oh, no problem. It said definitely not for kids. And so I gave it to my little brother at the time. I think he was like 8. And I'm like, here, rent this. And he walked right up and they let him rent it. Well, you know, without even checking to see what it was. That was my first hentai, actually, because there is a sex scene in the very beginning where you see there's a shot um, when this when the guy starts going at this one girl, and it's inside, like you can see everything moving inside, and just kind of blew my mind. I ended up like making several of my friends watch that. Yeah, sometimes against their will. Um, but yeah, I was a very, very precocious uh, child when I was younger. And let's see. Yeah, actually, back on the getting better, I actually traced when I was little. I traced not only other, like, I would trace out of comic books just to kind of discipline my hands, you know, get that muscle memory down, because the muscle memory is really the most important thing. when you make lines, you don't want to do like these little short sketchy lines like, you know, that when you're trying to make one solid line. You want to, you know, have confident strokes is I think what they're called. Yes, I like Heathers. I haven't watched the TV show yet. I'm not. I After I saw the advertisement, I wasn't wholly sure I liked what direction they were going because the way the creator of the TV show looks at it, that the Heathers weren't bad guys, so to speak, and to me, JD wasn't the only bad guy in the movie or the musical. In that, both the Heathers and both the football players were, you know, also certainly antagonists. They weren't as big of antagonists as um, JD was, but he was, or darn it, stop trying to open. Gonna end up having to close my nice hash. Um, they weren't as big of antagonists as. Oh, you don't? Well, I guess that should clue me in on maybe how good or bad it is. I do plan on checking it out, but I'm hesitant. I liked the movie. It took me a long time to actually watch it because each time I watched it, I ended up like falling asleep or getting distracted by something. Um, so I ended up not actually watching it until after the musical. When I saw the musical, it was like, okay, I guess I gotta, you know, actually sit down and watch this thing and see where it differs from the musical. Um, and I actually did like it. I liked it as a response kind of to the John Hughes movies and their, I guess, kind of lighter hearted, not so black comedy. Um, I love the musical, of course, because uh, I would not be able to tell you what my favorite movie is. I've got so many. It's like, what genre, what era? Um, but I love Hamilton. I do. Let's see. Uh, and oh, thank you for enjoying my Dead Girl Walking. I definitely plan on finishing that and moving on to other songs, but I'm probably going to, after I actually finish that, the first one I'm probably going to be working on is Alexander Hamilton from the first song from Hamilton, and then kind of go back and forth. You know, one Hamilton, one Heathers, and since I did Dead Girl Walking, I'm probably just gonna start with Beautiful from Heathers after I do Alexander Hamilton. So the only out of order one is going to be Dead Girl Walking, because uh, darn it, I swear, I'm gonna close. There we go. Hopefully that won't pop up anymore. Huh. Well, that's definitely a reason to watch the movie. Yeah, there are definite differences, like the two characters being merged in to create Martha Dunstock. Um, I think they definitely I think they changed JD's personality and gave him a little more depth in the. Do I like Be More Chill? I've seen songs from that, but I haven't actually listened to any yet. I've also seen some people do animatics for it. Um, but no, I haven't really watched or seen enough to form an opinion. What's it about exactly? I mean, well, I like. I'm hard pressed to find any musicals that I actually don't like. That would probably be a much shorter list than the musicals I do like. Um, Let me think. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I was just trying to